48a on the top of the page. Second line. Chesem Aleph. Rabbi v'Rabzeira. We know that pair. Pair of Amiraim in Bavel. Rabbi v'Rabzeira ikloi lebei Reish Galusa. They happened to be in the house of the Reish Galusa. Reish Galusa is the exilarch. She's the president of the community. Chaziolu Avda, they see the servant of the Reish Galusa. Anach kuzet de maya puma de kumkuma. He's putting a jug of water, pitcher of water, on top of kumkuma is like a boiler or a hot water pot. So he's putting, according to Rashi, cold water pitcher on top of a hot water urn. Sounds like a big problem. Nazir Rabbi gets angry at the servant. Now, a servant. Oh, 1 second. About mute?
Yeah.
Okay. A servant is, I guess, an Eved Kanani here. And you have to make sure that your Eved Kanani doesn't do malachas. I assume that's what it's talking about. We don't even have this concept since Abraham Lincoln, or well after that. But you have to make sure that your Eved Kanani doesn't do malacha. Here he puts cold water on top of hot water. Amalei Rab Zera, what's the big deal? You can put a mecham, a hot water pot, on top of a hot water pot. So Amalei, Rabbit says, over there, you're just maintaining the heat of the upper one by putting it on top of the lower one, which I guess is on the fire. But here you're making it hot. It's a very clear Gemara. The only problem is, what was Reb Zera thinking? Taisvis Maishnami Mechem al Gabi Mechem starts off with a question. The brisa that says that you're allowed to put a mecham on top of another mecham actually concludes that this is only to maintain the heat, but not to heat it up. It says first that brisa. So Reb Zera is quoting half a brisa that has the answer to his claim in the rest of it. So Tosfos says, well, Reb Zera didn't actually know the brisa. Reb Zera was only saying what he knows that people do. And then logically he was saying, well, if you can maintain heat, why can't you also warm it up? So Tosfos' follow-up question after that is, 1 second. Are you making it Yad Seledes or not? If you're making it Yad Seledes, so then you have a real issue of Bishul. If you're not making it Yad Seledes, so what's the problem anyway? So Tosfos' conclusion is that he was putting it in a position that could actually make it Yad Seledes. But he was hoping to rush in afterwards and remove it before it reached that temperature. So the Machlekes Rabbi and Reb Zera is, if you can put something that would you leave it longer, it would reach Yad Seledes, but you're removing it before that time. That would be the Machlekes Rabbi and Reb Zera, which comes out very interesting. Putting something next to a stove, if that location, we said Seimech next to Akira could be an issue. If it's cooked already, it's not an issue, but if it's not cooked, so if you would leave it there enough that it would reach Yad Seledes, then that's an issue. Even if you're not going to leave it there so long, because of what Rabbi is saying, that you may forget and leave it there. That's the whole discussion. Okay, Hadar Chazi, then he sees the Paras das Studar. The Studar is like a turban. some sort of wrap for the head. Apumi the kuba, a mask, on the mouth of on the opening of a barrel or a pitcher or something. So he takes his turban off, he puts it on this pitcher. He puts a ladle on top of his turban. The ladle is used to take wine out of the barrel. The stein, very good. So Nazi Rabbi gets upset about this also. It's interesting. Rabbi is the guest. He's getting upset at the servant of the Reish Galusa. Amalei Reb Zera says to Rabbi, Amai, why are you getting upset? What's he doing wrong? So Amalei Hashtachazes. I'm not sure if this means you'll see now, or you only see what's happening now. You don't know what's happening in the future. The Saif, Chazit Kamatzale. You see that he was squeezing out his turban. Very good. Squeezing it out. See the picture there. Amalei, so Reb Zera says, Maishnami Parunka. Parunka is a cloth lid that was put over a barrel. So you would cover a barrel, but a barrel doesn't have to always be a solid cover. You can cover it with a cloth. So look, it's possible the cloth will get wet. So what's the problem here? His turban will get wet. So why are you making a big deal? Over there you're allowed, here you're not. Over there, he knows it's going to get wet. He doesn't mind. That's what it's made for. He knows it can get wet. It's a cloth. It could be it's going to sink in a little bit or whatever. It'll splash. It will get wet. That's how it is. It gets wet. It's a mikveh towel. Here, it's his turban. So he's going to end up squeezing it out. Leibeteven, quoted in the Mishnah that you can't use straw that gets wet for insulation. Straw that is wet. You can't use wet straw, you can't use grape skins, you can't use mukin. Mukin, we said, was like maybe tufts of wool. Now, we made it look like it was shmatas. It's just, pieces of materials, like stuffing probably. But apparently, from this Gemara, it has more value than that. And to the extent that the Gemara is asking, it could be it's muktzah machmas chisar kiss. Muktzah machmas chisar kiss is like this. If you have an article that's precious, that would only be used for its function. For example, a painting, you only put it on the wall. You don't use it as a placemat or something. Even though technically you could, you would never do that. So it's muktzah because you would never use it for a double purpose. What is that? I can't say that the stein of painting. Oh, as a placeholder, for the cup. Okay, Rav Ada bar Masna me Abaya. Rav Ada bar Masna says, he asks of Abaya, Mukin shetamad mem. Let's say you used mukin. You actually used it for, which is not a problem unless it's wet. But you used mukin, which is this stuffing, this soft material. Ma'al l'tatlan b'Shabbos. Are you allowed to move it? Well, I guess while you're using it, then for sure it's not a problem, but what about afterwards? Did they become designated for Hatmana? They become a Eily? Or are they not? Are they not considered a Eily? Are they? Do they still have the status of they're going to be turned into woven cloth? These are the tufts of wool that weren't processed yet. but they could be made into cloth. What do you think? It's not muktzah? Just because this guy doesn't have a box of straw to put his pot in, so he's going to be mafkir. He's going to nullify, or he's going to throw away a box of mukin. This mukin could earn him money, or could be used for something much more valuable. It should be muktzah. Example in Shulchan Aruch, muktzah. Was there something about a knife, a special knife that won't be used for anything else, only for that purpose? I think maybe like a shechita knife or something. But even though you can use it to cut whatever, but you would never use it for anything other than precisely that. So lema Messiah, let's bring a proof to answer this question. It says, you could do hatmana in shearings of wool. It's the wool right when it comes off. Tzipei tzemer are pressed. It's pressed together, probably like felt. It becomes like a mat. And this is strips of purple wool. You can use all this for hatmana to insulate a pot. It should remain hot. Ubemukin, okay, that's what we're talking about. Also the soft material. Vein metaltalinize them, but you're not allowed to move them. Pretty clear. Can't move them. It means it's muktzah. So Gemara says, that's not a proof. Can't use that. That only tells me if you didn't use them in metaltalinize. You see, you divide that case into two. You're allowed to use it for hatmana. If you didn't use it for hatmana, then muktzah. Who's to say that after you used it for hatmana, it remains muktzah afterwards? That was our question. Does it remain muktzah when you're done? Does it become muktzah when you're done? Maybe if you don't use it for atmana, it's muktzah. That's what the Bryce is referring to. But once you used it for atmana, using it once for atmana, makes it not muktzah. Gemara says, if you never used it for atmana, then of course it's muktzah. It has to be a chiddush. The chiddush should be that even though you used it, it's still muktzah. Where it says, no, there still is a chiddush. The fact is, I could have used it as like a bean bag. I could have used it to recline on. So that would be a usage that would make it not muktzah. Mashmalan, that it's muktzah. I have written on the side that if you use something twice, it becomes not muktzah. Gemara is referring to using it once. Not sure where that's from. Maybe like a Mishnah Berurah or something. You have to look up in Rishon and Tess. I don't have the Shulchan Aruch here. Just 1 second. In fact, the Stein and back of one of my Gemaras, I have like a halacha summary. Yeah, in Shulchan Aruch is Rishon and Tess. It says mukin that were used derech mikra. Derech mikra means that it wasn't really designated just by chance. You happen to use mukin, soft material for atmana. You're not allowed to move it. You take off the cover and you let them fall. Oh wow! Even while the atmana is going on. But if if you use it regularly, then it's not muktzah anymore. Das habach, that 2 times is enough, is considered ragel. How often is ragel? So the bach says twice. It's not interesting. Okay. Rav Chisda. Shara la durei udra lebesadi b'shabbata. Chisda allowed to return stuffing into a pillow on Shabbos. Esvei Rav Chanan bar Chisda. I don't know if that's his son. Rav Chisda. It sounds like it's his son, but maybe it would be Rav Chanan bar Rav Chisda if it would be his son. I'm not sure. It says Matirin Beisatzaver b'Shabbos avalei Peschen. I think I'm making an assumption here. I think the way they would make a shirt is somehow it would be naturally it would be closed, and then they would have to cut it open, the cloth, the neck, or maybe I'm not sure exactly. The neck would be closed. If you give it to the launderer, it comes back closed, like that nice button there. It comes back closed, and you're allowed to open it up on Shabbos. However, if it's the first time that it was made, then you're not allowed to open it up. In other words, a brand new shirt or a cloak or something that's closed, you can't cut the neck to size or whatever the first time, because that's like a makah b'patish. However, if it was opened already, and you give it to the launderer, then he closes it when he returns it to you. You're allowed to open that up. You can't put the stuffing into a pillow, into a cushion. On Yom Tov, and for sure not on Shabbos. I'm not sure exactly what the svaras over there are. I guess Yom Tov, Eichel Nefesh. I don't know. Yom Tov has some leniencies over Shabbos. Umar says, so what's our question? Rav Chisda allowed stuffing to go into a pillow, and we have a brisa that says that you're not allowed to put stuffing into a pillow. Umar says, like kasha b'chadati abatike. Depends. You're not allowed to stuff a new pillow, but if you had a pillow that the stuffing fell out, you can push it back in. Okay. This we have in other places. Also, it's an issue with what is a sarbal? Is that a type of boot? Sarbal? What is it, Moshe? Can't hear.
Isn't it an overall?
Oh, maybe.
About.
Taisus is saying about strings that fall out of a sarbal, if you're allowed to put it back in. This question comes up, the shoelaces come out, if you're allowed to put it back in. Apparently, this would be the difference if it's new shoes or if it was in there before and it just fell out, you're allowed to put it back. Tanya, there's a Totna Brisa. Tanya Nami this was also Totna Brisa. Ein niceness and mukun little techa karbalate little techa kesses b'yamtiv. Ein tzarech lem b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to put stuffing into a pillow on Yom Tov, and for sure not on Shabbos. Nashru, but if the stuffing fell out of the pillow, you're allowed to return it. Very clear. So what we had as a kasha in the teretz, there's a brisa that says clearly. Rav Yehuda Rav. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav. Rav Yehuda is a student of Rav. Someone opens a cloak, the collar, is chayev chatas. Okay, you seem to have understood that before. Maskefla Rav Kana. Rav Kana has a question. Rav Kana is also a student of Rav. We remember Rav Kana. We had him in Brachas. He was the one that was under Rav's bed. Maskefla Rav Kana has this question. He's asking the other student, Rav Yehuda. Ma ben zul megufas tavos. What's the difference? We're on top of now 48b. What's the difference between this and Megufas Achavas? Apparently, they would open a barrel on Shabbos, and the Megufas is a type of spout that was attached to the barrel, or the plaster that was sealing the barrel. You're allowed to open up a barrel. So you're telling me you can't open up the collar of a shirt, of a cloak, but you're allowed to open up a barrel. I remember as a kid, there was always this big machlekes and opening up soda bottles. It's always like a big discussion. Do you open it? Do you not open it? You know, even the plastic bottles, it has a little thing. If it spreads out, if it leaves a ring, one was always discussing it. Now I see everyone opens. Now the discussion is more like cans, if you open soda cans. So it may come out of Machlekes Rashi Tosfos here if you're allowed to. So apparently you can open a barrel. You can open a barrel on Shabbos. Amalei Rava says, Zeh chiber v'zeh nechiber. Here's where the big difference goes. Says, the megufa is not attached, but this is attached. Tosfos doesn't like the way Rashi's learning this. Rashi learns that megufa is not really part of the barrel, even though it's attached, but it's not considered attached because you're going to remove it. That's the lid. But the cloak was actually woven together. Tosfos is bothered with what Rashi's saying because we do have a Gemara that says you're allowed to, when you cut off the lid, you're allowed to even cut into the barrel. And that part that you're cutting into the barrel itself is definitely attached to the barrel. You're actually cutting into it. Could be, I'm not sure if he's learning. I think he's learning that the megufa is actually not, it's sort of like some sort of waxed or some sort of spout that was attached to the barrel. That you're allowed to take off, sort of like a cork, allowed to take a cork out of it. The issue with cans is that the way they make, they don't attach, whether it's a soda can or whether it's like a tuna fish can. The opening that you're making is not the attachment. The can is the can. They press a lid on it, and then you don't actually take off that lid. You either cut through the side, or you cut around over there, or there's a thing in the center that you're making. If you learn that you're separating, if two things have become separated, then it could be that you need to actually separate that exactly. It's not what that we're not doing. Plastic lids on bottles. Most people are metal lids. I think people are makbid. You know, like let's say a whiskey sometimes comes with a metal, maybe some grape juice or something that breaks off a little ring. Okay. Anyway, the Daf Yomi is not the halacha here, but the sources of the halacha have to do with this Rashi and Tosfos. Rami le Rabbi Yirmiyah le Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the contradiction to Rabbi Zera. It says, Tanan, started in one Mishnah, Shalal shal kaivsim, Shal shalash shal maftechas, V'habeged shutafer b'kalayim. Okay, the first thing over here, the Shalal shal kaivsim, this would be similar to a modern day sock bag. Something people wash their socks, they put them all into a bag. For some reason, it's like a mysterious thing. You don't do that. They disappear somewhere and through the dryer, through a hole somewhere, so one gets lost. I don't know how that happened. The malach. In the olden days, they would take a thread and they would tie it through. They would put a string the launderer would put a needle through the whole thing, and they would be attached. We would wash the whole bunch. It'd be in the river. That's over there. It makes sense. One would get washed away. So he would tie the whole bundle and he would wash it. And a ring of keys. Well, the keys are on one ring. And also a beggar that's sewn with kalayim. You have two cloths of wool, but you have a linen cloth that's attaching them. So you're going to take that linen off. That was put there temporarily. When you're going to wear it, you're going to take it off. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about temporary attachments. It says like this: Chibur l'tumah. It's attached for tumah. That means that if one of these items becomes tamei, the whole lot is tamei. If I don't say chibur l'tumah and I touch one, even though that one is touching the next one like a domino, but that won't spread tumah because the rishon sheni becomes. You have all those halachas. The second one is not tamei anymore because rishon can't make another keli tamei. So if it's one item, it's a chibur, then you touched one, then the whole lot becomes tamei. Ad sheyaschal hater, until you begin untying them. Why? It's a maisa, and the maisa takes out another maisa. Rashi says, once you begin untying this, then you're megaladas that it's not one beggar. Alma, we see shlei b'shas malacha nami chibur. Until you start untying it, it's attached. That means while he's washing it, it's for sure considered attached. Even after he's finished washing it, where he doesn't need the attachment anymore, it's still considered attached. Even though it's not necessary, it's an attachment that's meaningless, that has no, he could already take it out. He just happened not to. It's only once he starts removing the attachment that it becomes separated. So, okay, no problem so far, but we have something coming up that's going to contradict that. Ramino, you have a contradiction. He poses a contradiction. It says, Makal shasi yad l'kordam. If I have a stick, a piece of wood, which normally a piece of wood isn't tamei, but when I shape it to be a handle for an axe or some hatchet, whatever it is, so the thing George Washington used so once I chisel it out like that, so chibur l'tumah, it becomes attached for tumah. That means if it becomes part of the vessel, the axe, b'shas malacha, only while it's being used. So here, I chisel it out. I make it fit as a handle for this axe. I put it in. While it's inside, it doesn't mean it's tamei. Only while I'm using it is it considered an attachment for tumah. B'shas malacha yin, shlei b'shas malacha loy. Once I put it down, I'm not using it anymore, then the wood returns to being wood, and it's not considered attached. So it's a contradiction. Is it b'shas malacha only, like we see in the hatchet, in the axe, that only then it's attached, only when it's necessary, or, as we see from the launderer, that it's always considered attached until you start to remove it? It's a discussion here about temporary attachments. How long does it remain attached once its purpose is not there anymore? The fact is that once you put the axe down and you're done, so yeah, you'll take the wood and you'll throw it in with your twigs, and you'll use it for whatever, for firewood. The main part of this was just the head of the axe. So you have no purpose in it anymore because you're not using the head. And the wood just becomes a piece of wood. You still want it attached as long as possible. Why? Let's say something spills on this thing. You're going to have to wash it again. So don't untie it until you've actually returned it to the owner, or until you need to use it or whatever. So over here, there's no reason to keep the wood of the axe attached. It just happens to be you were lazy and you didn't separate it yet. So it's considered not attached. Over there is a reason to keep it attached. So therefore, it's considered attached until you untie it. It's the reason for keeping it attached, which is making it attached. It still applies. Okay. The surah masnu lashmaitim shmeider Rav Chisda, but from Padisa masnu shmeider Rav Kana, varmalam shmeider Rav. The following Gemara was taught in surah in the name of Rav Chisda, and in Pampadisa was taught in the name of Rav Kana. I don't know specifically. I didn't know Rav Chisda was in surah. You know, Rav Chisda I think was by Rav, which would be in surah. I didn't know Rav Kana is in Pampadisa. I'm not sure exactly why it's divided like this. But Pampadisa was more north. I think Pampadisa is Fallujah. Fallujah means a division. Palukta. Fallujah, Palukta, is because there's a river that goes through Fallujah, so these two sides. I think we know that from the Gemara as well. Some say it was Rava that said this. The following. Who's the one that taught that anything that's attached has the status of the item itself? Rav Yehuda Marav Rav Meir. Rav Yehuda Marav says that it's Rav Meir. The Tanan. It's taught in the Mishnah. It says, Beis HaPach, Beis HaTavlin, Beis HaNer Shebekira. Okay, this is some sort of stove that has some conveniences attached to it. It's a place to put a jug in the stove to warm. It's a little holder attached to the stove that you can warm a oil jug in it. No, it has these trimmings. You buy it, it says, extra features. This stove has these, you can place these things in it. It's a tavlin if you want to warm spices. I don't think it's attached inside the stove itself, probably on the outside. Or maybe the stove has some sort of back to it that lifts up. You can put it over there. Beis HaNer Shebekira. What is the Beis HaNer? Has a lamp. Yes. Metamin b'magav ein metamin ba'avir. So this is interesting. These are things that are attached to the kira. If the kira becomes tamei because something touched the kira, then these items that are attached to it will also become tamei. But if the kira becomes tamei because something was put into the avir of the kira, now the avir is ear, just like the English word, ear. Avir. The vav is it's not a vase, it's a wa. So here, so the klicheres, earthenware, becomes tamei from something entering into its airspace. So there's a distinction here being made in what type of tumah the kira is getting, if these items will become tummy as well. If it's touched, then they become tummy. If the airspace not. Reb Meir, that's Reb Meir's opinion. Reb Shimon, Meir's friend, he's a student of Rabbi Akiva, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, is matar. He says that it's tar, always tar. It's more consistent. Bishlam Reb Shimon is good, makes sense. He says it's not considered attached to the kira. These are auxiliary, accessory things. It happens to be hanging on the side. It's like, you have some magnet that's attached to your refrigerator to hold, that has measuring cups or something, little plastic measuring, some feature that you have there that it's cute, but it's not part of the kira. It's not attached. Rab Meir, but according to Rab Meir, we have an issue. Ikakira dami. What are you considering it? If it's like the oven, afilu bavir nami latama, so let it become tamei consistently, if it's tamei, through airspace should be tamei. Lav kikirdam. If it's not, afilu b'maginam eloy tamei. So then it shouldn't be tamei even with touching the kira. It has to be. It's your shaila is not tumma. Your shaila is it attached? Once it's attached, then the tumma would automatically gonna go either way. My answer is la'ilam lav kikira dami. Really, it's not a kira. The rabbanon who the gazrabu, it's just a gzeira midrabanan. That means it's a tumma midrabanan. Gemara asks the same question again. See gazrabu, if it's a gzeira, so afilu bavir nami l'tama, so let it become tamei b'tavir. The Gemara answers avdu b'rabbanan akera. They didn't want it to be fully tamei. They always do this with rabbinic tummas. There's always a concern that you may think that it's a deraisa. So they always change one thing that you should notice, that this is not a real tumma. What happens is truma, which is food that's given to the kohen, has a certain holiness to it. If it becomes tamei, then it needs to be burnt. If it's not tamei, then it's not supposed to be burnt. It has to be treated with respect. So if it's tamei midirabanan, then you're not supposed to burn it. It's supposed to be, it's called tluyan. You let it sit until it rots or whatever. But you're not supposed to go directly and burn it. So here they want to show you that if something touches these accessories of the kira, they wanted to show you that it's only tamei midirabanan. And therefore, they tell you that these accessories are not tamei in all instances. So that distinction lets you know that it's a derabanan. Same as with sacrifice meat. That also, it should be burnt if it's tamei, and it should not be burnt if it's not tamei. Tanu Rabbanan was taught in a brisa. It's a Tisefta in Kalim. Kalim has a Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, and a Baba Basra. We know in Nezikin there's a Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra. Baba means a gate, not like the Yiddish. In Aramaic, Baba is a gate. The first gate, second, middle gate, and last gate. And that, when we learn Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, there's 30 prakim. So 10, 10, and 10. In Masechta Kalim, there's also 30 prakim. It's also divided, Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra. It's not divided in books, usually, because there's no Gemara on it. So this Masechta Kalim is always sold as Masechta Kalim, the Mishnayos, whatever. But in the commentaries on the Mishnayos of Kalim, if they're lengthy commentaries, it's going to say Kalim Baba Kama, Kalim Baba Metzia, Kalim Baba Basra. I had that once. I ordered the sefer, Baba Kama something. They had to clarify, was it Baba Kama of Kalim or Baba Kama? Okay, so this is a Tosefta in Kalim. It says Baba Metzia. On the side of my Gemara it says Maspera Shel Prakim, the scissors that comes apart. Yeah, I don't see the scissors today like that, but my grandmother had the scissors that put it together. The Ismal Shel Rehitni. A Rehitni is a plane. The way you would make wood straight, shave wood down. They do this sometimes when the door starts leaning over. They have to, it should close better. So the Ismail is the knife of the plane. Apparently the plane, the knife that they would put into a handle, but it would come apart. Chibur l'tumah, bein chibur la'azah. This is very interesting. If one of these items become tamei, the other one that's attached to it becomes tamei as well. When you want to get rid of the tumah, so you have to sprinkle the paraduma if it became tamei from a mace, the water of the paraduma, the ashes with water. So if it's one keli, you only have to sprinkle once. If it's two kelim, then you have to sprinkle on each one individually. So it says you have to sprinkle on each one individually. It became tamei as an attack, even though it wasn't touched. But to get rid of the tumah, you have to do them individually. Gemara says, "Manavshach, make up your mind. If it's attached, then even tumah it shouldn't become attached. It shouldn't become tamei." Rava says, the truth is midaraisa b'shas malacha chibur bein l'tumah bein la'azah. When you're actually using it, like we learned before, then it becomes one keli. However, shlei b'shas malacha, when you're not using it, it's not considered attached. However, because Rabbanan al tumah shlei b'shas malacha mishum tumah b'shas malacha, we're on top of Memtes 49. If you're not using it, then there's a gzeira that it's considered attached, because it is considered, it is attached when you are using it. So when you're not using it, there's a gzeira. So what they did was like this. They made a gzeira that they made the gzeira for chumrah. It's very consistent, actually. When it comes to tumah, the chumrah is to consider it attached. When it comes to tara, the chumrah is considered detached, because now you have to sprinkle twice. Just because you sprinkled on one of them doesn't mean you did the other one. So they took the chumrah for both sides. They said when it comes to tumah, we consider it always like attached. It's always tumah. Ba'alazah, when it comes to making it tar, sheb'shas malacha, they made a gzeira mishum hazah shlei b'shas malacha. The gzeira of the hazah of while it's being used, because of the hazah when it's not being used, the sprinkling. That over there, when you sprinkle on it at a time when it's not being used, so then you have to do two sprinklings. So we always consider it, even if you're using it, you always consider it like detached. Let's go a little further. Bisman shein lachen. We said that there's a difference if the cloth that we're using, there's different types of fabrics. If they're wet, then they increase heat. And if then they're dry, then it's not a problem. Ibailu. When you say wet, is it what? Let's go through the list of fabrics. It's straw or grapes or mukin or grass. We're probably dealing with the mukin here. It says lachen machmas atzon edim malach machmas davaracher. When you say wet, does it mean that the moisture came from itself? Somehow it got squeezed in a way that the moisture is coming out. Or are you saying that even if there's water on it, from some spill or something, you can't use it? Is it its own moisture, or even outside moisture would make it forbidden to use for hatmana, to insulate a pot? So Tashima, come and listen. You can't use straw, you can't use grape skins. Mukin, can't use this cloth. Can't use the grass. And while they're wet, if wet, the moisture comes from outside, then great. But if you say wet moisture from itself, so Tevin and Zugin and Asavim, they do have their own moisture. The grasses and the grape skins, they have their own moisture. If you squeeze them, the moisture will come out. But mukin, tufts of wool, or little pieces of cloth. How does that wet? You squeeze wool, water comes out. Where it says memarta de beiniatmi, talking about that you took it off the animal, and it's moist because this was the part of the animal that was between the legs. It's the back legs. Beiniatmi, between the bones, between the thighs of the animal. Over there, it's full of sweat. And you cut the wool off over there, and it's still wet from when you cut it off. Now you're going to use it right away to do hatmana, and that you're not allowed to do. So it is possible. We don't have an answer. We don't have a proof. Okay. Vaha de Tani Rabbi, and this is what Rabbi taught. Maybe it's in Bat Rabbi taught. I'm not sure. You're allowed to use old clothes, old garment, and old fruits to do atmana. Dried fruits, rather. Dry clothing, dry fruits, not old, dry. But you can't use a wet garment. Now we've already switched. It's a garment. And not with fresh fruits, wet fruits. So what do you mean? This is not tufts of wool. This is already a cloth. The Gemara says, "Memarta de beiniatmi." No, it's still wet from the when you cut it off. Somehow you're able to make it very quickly while it still had that moisture. I don't know. That's what the Gemara says. Okay, let's try to go a drop further. We have a little bit more time. I didn't look at this. Help me if you have a translation there. Taimnen biksus. You can use a cloth for insulate ubeperis and fruits. Bekanfe yaina. This is feathers of a dove. B'nesayra shel charashim, sawdust from a carpenter. B'ne'ayra shel pishtan. This is the what you bang out of the flax before you start the process. Daka, I guess, when it's the thin dust, I guess. Rabbi Yehuda Eiser b'daka mater begasa. Rabbi Yehuda says there's a problem with the thin dust. Do you have a commentary? Is he only talking about the Nair Shel Pishtan? I think so. But he allows if it's the thick pieces of the flax. Okay. Oh, the Gemara is going to ask that question if he's referring to only that. Amar Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai says, Tefillin tzrichim guf naki. How does this come in over here? Tefillin, it needs to have a clean body. Elisha bal kanafayim. Like Elisha, remember the story? We had this Gemara. Elisha bal kanafayim, Elisha, the master of the wings. There was a time when you weren't allowed to put on tefillin, and Elisha, this fellow, Elisha was wearing tefillin, and the general or soldier comes over to him and says, "What are you doing? What's in your hand?" He says, "Oh, it's just the wings of a dove." And he says, "Let me see." He opens it up, and it turned into feathers, to feathers of a dove. And so this miracle happened for him. He became called Elisha bal kanafayim. Maihi, what is this referring to? This means it means the person has to have a clean body when he wears tefillin. It means he shouldn't pass gas. Rava Amar Shlayishin Behem means that he shouldn't fall asleep in them. Why is Elisha called Bal Kanafayim? So then we have the story. Shapam Machas. One time, Gazra Malchus Remi Arashah, the wicked Roman Empire, made a decree. Gezer al Yisrael, a decree against the Jews. Shekol Miniach Tefillin. We had times, I think we know, actually, the Bavli doesn't tell us a lot of the Roman emperor names, but Yerushalmi gives us more names, gives us more details. I know that Hadrian was not good. We had in the Bavli is Hadrianus in Hadrian. He was a good emperor, but he was a bad to the Jews. So he made religious persecution. We weren't allowed to keep the Torah during his days. So they made a decree that anyone that puts on tefillin, yinakru es meichai. They'll make a hole in his brain. Elisha menichem, Elisha was putting it on. He went to the market. Ro kaster echad, a minstrel, means some sort of soldier, a minister, an official. That's what it is. An official sees him. Ratzmi panav, he runs away. Ratz acharav. So the soldier runs after him. When he reaches him, takes him off his head. He holds it in his hand. What do you have? Says, "Oh, I just have feathers of a dove, pigeon, a dove." He opens his hand, and he sees that there's feathers there. Okay, that's how he got the name. Why is he called Kanfi Yain? Why did he say specifically feathers of wings of a dove? Mishar Reifas. You could have said a different bird. Mishum the Amos, the Amtil, that means Amshil, right? Amtil, Tafanashim. Because the Amtil, Knesset Yisrael Yain, because the Jewish people are compared to a dove. Kanfi Yain Nechba B'Kesef. Like a wings of a dove, nechba bakesef, does that mean covered? Covered in silver? Ma yaina kinafel magina salah, just like a yaina, the wings, it looks like a dove, the wings protect it. Because what does it do if someone comes to attack it? It fights with its wings. Af Yisrael mitzvahs magina salah. Also, the Jewish people, the mitzvahs protected. Okay, b'neseir shel charashin chulu, with the dust of a carpenter, which means sawdust. So when it goes on, it says thin. Oh, when it says daka. Oh, Rabbi Yisrael says bedaka, oiser bedaka mata begasa. The Gemara thinks he's talking about the sawdust. Now the Gemara asks, Sibailu, Rabbi Yehuda and Aser shel charashin koy or ner shel pishtin koy. Which one is he referring to when he says only if it's thin it's aser, but if it's thick pieces then it's mutter? Is he talking about the sawdust or is he talking about the flax? So Tashima, come and listen. The Tanya, we have a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer ner shel pishtin daka ariel kezevel. Thin. The dust that comes out from the flax, that's considered like manure. In manure, we had a problem with doing hatmana and using as insulation because that does decompose. It does give off heat. So, shmamina nur shel pishtin koy, shmamina. It must be that he's referring to the flax when it says daka. You see, in our Mishnah, I notice on the side, we said nur shel pishtin daka. That was allowed. However, the Rif and the Rush take out the word daka. So now Rabbi Yehuda comes in and it says, Oyser bedaka. He asks it. I mean, the Tanakama didn't mention if it's daka or gasa, it's thin or thick. They said that you're always allowed to use it. Rabbi Yehuda says daka not. And that's how we conclude that it was talking about the flax. Okay. A drop ahead, which is good. Have a good day. Stop.